Today we're here with Mark Dilworth, team leader for 16 years, one of the managing partners of the #1 Keller Williams group in Florida, built a $1 billion market center, the man, the myth, the legend. Thank you so much for being here today, Mark.
I appreciate it, Amanda. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And when you guys came to me about this, I was very thankful that you guys did it. So it's a pleasure to be on here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's kind of an honor for us to have you. About a year ago, I met you. We sat down and started talking about this market center and about me coming on board. I kind of eluded you for a while because I thought you were just, recruiting me or whatever.
Ignored.
We can go that way with it. But it's been a real honor to serve with you during this time. And now you're coming to a big change in your life. But I want to ask this question. Sure. Over the 16 years, what would you say are the 3 biggest challenges a team leader faces?
Well, before we dive into that, what is a team leader?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know. So Mark, tell us a little bit about what a team leader is.
Yeah, I think sometimes it can get confused. People think, well, I'm the broker of the office. And in the Keller Williams system, that may be true, but it doesn't necessarily have to be true. Yeah. And so the way that I describe it to people, I have my broker's license, but the agents aren't going to come to me with broker questions. They're just not. We have full-time brokers to do that and handle that day in and day out. So if you look at it, if you said, hey, what's a team leader's responsibility in the world of Keller Williams? For me, I always answered it 3 ways. Okay. Obviously, attracting talent
of course
to the market center. That's number 1. Number 2, I had told you many times, I still enjoy being involved in the sales meeting to kind of set the tone and the direction of the market center. And then the third thing is consulting with the agents on certain topics and different things like that. So if you look at a team leader within Keller Williams, I would say that pretty much accurately outlines what most of them are doing.
Yeah, so you're the CEO of the market center, essentially.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Amanda. And this is one of those things, and we didn't talk about this or anything like that. Since I grew up more so in the corporate world, I never considered myself a CEO just because when I thought of a CEO, I thought of like the leader of a group of 1,000, 1,500. You're the CEO of Johnson & Johnson. Right. You're the CEO of Apple. So I never really thought about it like that, but it's true. I mean, there's truth to it for sure. Absolutely. For sure. That's more my hang up.
Well, now we can go ahead and move into that.
So what are the challenges in doing that you've experienced? Maybe the 3 biggest challenges of that position as a CEO. What does it look like?
The first thing that comes to mind is, having done it for as long as I've done it, there's been a couple of periods that have really, really been tough. That 2007, and everybody says 2007, 2008, 2009, but it really wasn't that, because when you get hit like we got hit in this field in 2007, you don't bounce out of that in 1 year. You don't bounce out of that in 2 years. That can take 5 years. So if you look at it, you could say, well, 2007 to 2012. And then now what we've gone through for the last couple of years, and what you realize, and which I don't know that the public totally understands all the time, is that these agents are 100% commission.
Right.
Okay. And certain things happen in markets like this where you're never across the finish line until you're really across the finish line. And there's so many gut punches that these agents can take over time that I think managing or helping lead through that, the fear that comes with it and the mindset that you have to have with it, that to me is a big challenge.
Absolutely.
And then something that happens again, we're a large company and there's a lot of agents. A couple of challenges that stick out is we've lost people. There's been tragedies that have occurred.
Absolutely.
And working through those tragedies is always something that I found is a big challenge. And then the final thing I'll say, and it's kind of ironic, kind of in a way selfishly makes me feel good. And you and I talked about this, but I'll tie college football into it, or college athletics. Right now, you've got a lot of famous names that are saying, hey, I'm done. I'm out. Nick Saban's out. Tony Bennett, the head basketball coach of UVA, just said, I'm out a week before the season started. Chip Kelly, a very famous college coach, leaves a very large program to be an offensive coordinator. Well, part of the reason they're doing this is because of the kind of the no loyalty. Whoever pays the athletes the most, they win.
Right.
And they're not down with that.
Right.
But then I look at and it's not just Keller Williams, I look at every real estate company and all the people that run these offices. that's how it's always been.
Yeah.
Any day I can get a phone call, or you can get a phone call, or you could have gotten a phone call at Southside saying, hey, I'm out, I'm getting this, or this brokerage is giving me that. And so I understand why these guys are out in college football, because to manage through that for 16 years, yeah, that can be tough at times.
Absolutely.
That can be tough at times. And so there is a little bit of a pride factor that says, hey, we made it through that for a long time, and it does toughen you up, but it's no less a challenge. And I get why these talented professionals are like, I'm out.
I think one of the differences that you just kind of brought to the surface is with a market center, being a team leader, you're not only dealing with CEO stuff, but the human factor doesn't escape you. If you're in a large company and you're kind of sitting up above everything else, you really have to deal with the people day in and day out. So what kind of toll does that take over a 16-year period, or do you find it just one of the more rewarding parts?
Definitely one of the more rewarding parts. But I wouldn't be totally truthful if, in the last couple of years with COVID thrown on top of it, it became more of a challenge. Yeah. It became, at some point it's like, whew, okay, I got to pick myself back up.
Right.
And I've got to find my way to get back right in the right frame of mind. Yeah. So, at some point, it does start to wear a little bit. But I would say for the majority of my career in this role, I've said it before, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being fantastic, 1 being I was a 12. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you how grateful I am, with respect to that. And that's, when I was fortunate to get offered the job, there's just this internal feeling where I was like, I can do this. I've got this. And then you look at the importance of a staff, because so if I'm the CEO, I get the credit, I get the blame, but we got a lot of credit.
Yeah.
And that wasn't me. I mean, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but that's the Nancys, and that's the Connies, and that's the Wilmas, and that's the Amandas, and that's the Joes, and that's the Marianas. It's the Tylers, it's the you're not succeeding alone in this.
It's the who.
Yeah, it's totally the who. Yeah, it's totally the who.
So when you went through those challenges, tell us some key defining moments where the who made a difference for you.
Oh, I got a great one.
Okay,
I got a great one. So you guys know me, kind of when I get into that mode where I'm kind of focused, I can walk through this office with my head down, kind of ears, but eyes pierced, and kind of a look on me. Yeah. And if you didn't know me, you might be like, what's up with this guy? And it was just one of those times where I felt like I was getting beat up. And I appreciate Nancy so much for doing this. And some of you have heard this story, but she called me into her office, and she was sitting across like this, and she said, give me your hand. So I laid my hand out on the desk, and she grabbed it, and she said 2 things. The first thing that she said, Mark, don't let things mean more than they mean.
Oh, wow.
That hits me.
And I was like, wow. And then she said, it's going to be okay. And what she didn't mean that day, she didn't mean with that moment, she didn't mean with that situation or that person. She meant in a much more spiritual sense overall with life. Don't let it mean more than it means, and it's going to be okay. Yeah. And it would... I haven't forgot that to this day. I just appreciate it a great deal. And I can give you another one. Steve had said something one time. This is when we were opening up the Southside Market Center. And this was 2014. So kind of the Dilworth family is still in a bit of a tough spot financially. Well, you guys know when we open these market centers, the owners have to sign the document that, any cash calls, any defaults on rent, copy, any of that type of stuff, it's on the certain people that sign this document. And that rent in Southside was not cheap.
I know.
It was a lot. And it was one of those times where I'm like, golly, am I doing the right thing? And there was a lot of fear there. And Steve, again, I don't know what it is about grabbing my hand, but he grabbed my hand and he said, Mark, your whole professional life, you've hit 800. Don't let a 4-year period that brought the entire world to its knees financially define your choices moving forward.
Oh, wow.
So that was a good one. I can give you one more too. This is when he was mad. He was so mad at me. It was again the South Side. Steve's more of like 25,000 feet, throw it against the wall. If it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, move on. Where I'm more like, why didn't it stick? Why didn't it stick against the wall? And he'd already had his paperwork done. I still had a stack left to do to get the franchise open. And he was mad. And I'll never forget it. He looked at me and said, Mark, here's your problem. You have to be 100% correct in every single decision you make. But sometimes 80% is good enough. And in that 20% that you're trying to be perfect, he said, you miss out on opportunities. And he got up and left. And I was like, do I get up right now and choke him? Or do I sit here and realize that that's some of the best advice I could have ever received in my life? So there's a lot of things like that, you guys, as I go through this. But the funny thing is when you go back to it, it always involves who? It always involves people. It always involves people.
Yeah. And you've managed not to lose sight of that. Like I think
hope.
Yeah, no, I think you have. I think one of the reasons when I met with you and I went home and I was talking to my wife about making the transition myself, I was like, I can work with that guy. Like there was that, not only did I have confidence you knew what you were doing, but I had confidence I could work with you. And I don't want you to miss that over those 16 years, you developed a lot of ability to do that. And it's interesting to hear how everybody affects everybody, right?
Yes.
There's so much being poured in. And I think one of the things people don't understand about our industry is the significance of having a market center, having those who's, having those relationships, and the fact that you can really build something over time. So what's the average tenure of a team leader?
2.5 years.
Yeah, because there's a lot that goes on.
There's a lot that goes on.
So it's quite an accomplishment.
And you kind of get it from up top down and bottom up. So you're kind of...
You're in the vice.
An extreme pressure cooker.
Yeah.
You're right there.
So what's some of the biggest, like when you think about, you look back over the 16 years and you go, man, that was really cool to accomplish that. Are there some standouts there?
There is. There is. All the awards were nice. They really were. But it's what it led to that was most important thing. And I've thought about this. And it's the respect of my peers. When you peel back everything and you take a look at the trophies and all of that type of stuff, it's all good and well, but it's really what that allows to happen. So that's, the guys in Orlando, the girls in Tampa, Sarasota or whatever, there's a respect there that I appreciate. And it's that respect out of all of it that is the most important thing, far and away.
So, Mark, I have to tell you, in the 7 years that I've worked at Keller Williams, there's never been a room that I've walked into that when I mention your name, people don't go, oh, we love that guy. From your experience to your infectious energy to the vulnerability that you're willing to share. Because that's the biggest thing is people know that they can connect with you. And I've always admired you. So being able to now work alongside you the way we have, and it's funny you say the awards don't matter, which I completely agree. And yet one of the crowning achievements in my career is last year when we were at the awards ceremony and we both won Market Center of the Year. And I thought, I'm even in like remotely the same bucket as Mark Dilworth. Like that's a big deal. So that's not something to be taken lightly. It takes a lot of hard work, and being a team leader is where they say we're the franchise quarterback, and yet we're really the guy sweeping the field, it feels like half the time.
At times, but you go back, the other thing though, with respect to the awards and the different things that you win, I still go back to the sense that, hey, that's because a group of people, a leadership staff came together and pretty much, for the most part, sang off the same song sheet. 1,000%. Because this job is a 12 on a scale of 1 to 10. And thank God for the majority of the time, it was that.
Yeah.
But when you don't have a great team around you, this job is not a 12 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Not at all.
It's not even close. No. It's just not close. So you feel good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, yes, it's great to walk up on stage. Yeah. But I mean it when I say it's more the respect from the peers and the fact that you feel good for the rest of your team that this is happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I loved about it. And I would even say one more thing, something that's come into my mind, and Joe, you and I think we spoke about it, but if I look back on my career, it's almost like a marriage so I'm at the end of the road now. And my most significant feeling is not happy. It's not sad. It's fulfilled. But in understanding fulfillment, what I've learned is, and this is what I think I said to you, if I give you $500, you're happy. You're not fulfilled,
Right.
but you're happy. In order to have fulfillment, you have to have those high moments. You have to have those low moments. You have to have those medium moments. And what I've learned now at this age of my life is all of those things come together to create fulfillment.
Amen.
And so looking back on that, it's a fulfillment that I feel. Not that we were perfect and not that we didn't have just some stinky days, months.
Maybe a year.
But all of that comes together to create a sense of fulfillment that you can't, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
Well, I think one of the things we have to come to terms with is the concept of joy, which is what I think you're talking about ultimately is relational. It's relational.
Yeah.
The material things are here, they're gone. The trophies you put in a corner, you lose them, they end up in a box in the attic. But those relationships that you've been a part of, that goes with you always. Yeah. So what would you say, are there a couple of really significant relational moments you had where, I don't know, you were able to do something that changed someone's life and you just walked away and went, that was really cool?
You know how I'll answer that? You know what comes to my mind is not when I've helped change somebody's life, but in speaking with certain agents that they've said things to me that changed my life.
Oh, wow.
And certain things that, like bravery, but not bravery in the sense of, fights or battles or anything like that. Bravery in dealing with human tragedies that I don't know how you deal with it.
Yeah.
I don't. And so, it's much more what I've taken away from different, and it's not always about that. It's not always about that. There's a lot of times where I'm in a room with a group of agents and I'm listening to them and I'm like, well, that was brilliant. I would have never thought of that.
Absolutely.
And I'm just amazed by the talent that we're surrounded with.
Yeah.
And I think anything, if you look at the public, here's the thing. I've led individuals in a medical corporation where everybody was salaried. And I've led them when they're not, when they're 100% commission. The 100% commission performers, I have much more, and I'm not disrespecting these people. I was working with some amazing people. But when you're not making anything, and I'm not holding a paycheck over your head, and you're an independent contractor, sometimes I can get a little fired up with respect to how we're perceived by the public when it's like, wait, hold on. Let me take your check away. Let me take your company car away. Let me take your 401k away. Let me take your pension away. Let me take your health insurance away. Now, you wake up tomorrow morning and get out there and get after it. And so when I see these people do this, it's an immense amount of respect.
Yeah. And
I just wish, that the public thought about that. Now, sometimes we stick our foot in our mouth and we do some, but there's a reason for that too. But anyway, I'm just totally impressed with what it takes to be successful in this industry.
So let me ask you this. We talked a little bit about the who. I want to give some tactical advice to someone who may either want to start a team or they're leading a team and they're struggling a lot. What type of advice would you give that person?
Can I wind it back just a little bit?
Absolutely, however you like.
In starting out, what I realized is maybe it's not the right time for a team, first of all, for certain people. And one of the tough lessons I had to learn in this role was, somebody comes and says, I want to form a team. And I wasn't skilled enough to understand all of the parameters behind a team.
Absolutely.
And the fact that sometimes people form teams for wrong reasons. So anymore, what you and I have talked about and what you and I have talked about in the past is that, are they forming a team for the right reason?
Right.
Okay. Or is there a little too much ego involved? Because that's not going to end well.
Right.
That's just not going to end well. And I think then the leader of the team, I've always felt this way. You join a team for 1, 2, 3, 4 reasons. You join a team in no particular order, lead provision. You join a team possibly because you like a little more accountability because it's a smaller group. Maybe you just like teams.
Having a community.
Yeah, having that community right there. And then joining a team does stop the big swings when you're a new agent from making, I'm going to make this decision. Oh, that was wrong. Oh, and then you overcorrect. Teams help level that out.
Absolutely.
So if I'm running a team, I got to start with me, and I've got to look in the mirror, and am I meeting those parameters for the people that I'm with? Absolutely. And if I am, then I go somewhere else and look at something else. But if I can't answer those questions honestly, well, then we got to start here.
One of the things I hope is coming through as we sit and talk, and what I think has made you successful in this role and helped so many different people get where they want to be, is every time we ask you about an accolade, you move to someone else. It's always been about who you're helping and who you're progressing, more so than it is about yourself.
Right.
And I think that's an attribute that makes someone successful, whether it's a team lead or starting a team in this industry. You can't be so centered on yourself that you forget about the world around you, and that we are a unit. We are. And a lot of the struggles in our industry is because people they're more worried about the bottom line than they are the whole picture, the whole structure of what they are building. Again, team or market center doesn't matter. And I appreciate that, and working alongside of you this past year, the freedom to be interested in other people.
Yes.
And not just the bottom line is huge. It's huge. And it is a part of Keller Williams' value principles. And so I think that's been pretty cool too. So as you sit back here and think about 16 years,
right,
a lot's happened, a lot of fun's been had. And if we can air it, what's kind of one of the funniest fun things and all the trips and everything else that you've experienced? Is there something that you just sit back and laugh at? Again, that we can actually share.
Hashtag no HR.
Gosh, I wish I had, as much as I had clarity in those other moments. I swear to you guys, there's so many different things. Well, there was a certain comment, I'm not going to say, there's a certain comment that Kristen Van Riper said one time at a sales meeting that has happened over in the last year and a half. That's why I remember it, where here's what people don't understand. When you're up in front of the group, okay, and you're thinking about a million things. It's like you're a point guard and that guy's breaking and you got to dish the ball here, but that guy's coming up. And so there's so many things you're thinking about. When somebody throws something out there that causes the rest of the room to crack up, there's a relief of pressure for a little bit that allows you to recollect your thoughts while you're cracking up. Yeah. And you're just, it just makes it so great. It's those moments. I wish I could, there's a ton of them. Because you guys know me. I was about the silly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, you can tell them what you said when I walked in here.
No.
We need to talk about the fangirls outside. We had to hire security.
We had said
that's why we have security.
Yeah, Mark had come in and he said, hey, we need to call in double security because once I get out there, the women will be storming the studio. But that's been a day in the life of 16 years. And when we went to family reunion last year, when we were just sitting around talking, the experiences, again, that makes this industry bearable at times.
Yes.
You have to have that levity or that fun to offset some of the stuff we deal with out in the real world day by day.
Well, if you're not going to say it, when I walked in, you said to Charlie, you realize you're letting a 12-year-old.
Oh,
I did. So we'll add that to the list of things that make someone a successful team leader.
Yes.
The attitude of a 12-year-old goes a long way.
It helps.
It does.
It does. But I mean, just because I can't think of something right now off the top of my head, because again, this is all off the cuff anyway. There wasn't any. Man, there's been a ton. They're just
Getting wrapped
it usually
in toilet
involves around
paper?
silliness. It's just silly. It's just silly, you know.
Absolutely. I vividly remember wrapping you in toilet paper like 5 or 6 years ago. That was
did that.
Sorry,
that
I
was a
missed
lot
that.
of fun for us.
Yeah, that was at the Christmas party. Pete was next to me though.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, just I can. This wasn't a funny moment, but Margaret will tell the story because I'm here. Margaret brought me over because Margaret and I worked together at a couple of different companies, and Margaret came in. This was 2006, 2007, and she came in and she goes, "I'm joining Keller Williams." And I was like, "Well, that's about the dumbest thing I've ever heard." And sure enough, she did and did great. And then eventually ended up bringing me over. And now going back to Sirius, when I'm thinking about Keller Williams, I will say this. Since I came over in 2009, again, the Dilworth family still wasn't out of its tough times. And I remember I went to family reunion, didn't really know Gary Keller, and he taught 6 personal perspectives and quantum leap. Oh. And it hit me so hard, like, that's it. That is it. You know, that's it right there. So,
well, at some point when I was early in, you pulled out a really meaningful GPS. You know, and you laid that in front of me. Coming out of that time when financially everything kind of fell apart.
Absolutely.
And the commitments you made. So that's been the interesting part of working with you. There's this blend of the 12-year-old, but also the other side of that, which is I want to make life better. Yeah. And that's not just for me, but my family, my kids, the people that work with me, for me. I mean, all of that part, I think, has gone into making you a very successful team lead, but also successful in a bigger sense in your life and the lives of other people. And as you step out of this role, you get to take that with you. Yeah. Again, the trophies, some of them we nailed to the wall. Probably not getting those. And again, people don't know this, but we just started a Hall of Fame for KWAP. And so I think, again, he started it so he could retire and get on it. I think that was the whole purpose.
That's what Patrick said today. You know,
it has to be. But I think everybody who watches this that knows you would want to thank you for the time and energy you put in. But having said all that, what's next? Where are you going from here?
Well, it's funny you say that. I just mentioned Patrick's name. And again, I can't say, but when we talk about funny moments, there's some things that man has said.
Agreed.
I can only imagine.
Dropped me to the floor crying. So
we apologize to the audience. We cannot repeat
leave it at that. Just some great ones. But yeah, so what's next? This didn't just happen. Okay. Right. And I knew that it was, getting close to time to come to the end. But what I've said to a lot of people in the past is, hey, don't run from something just to run from something. What are you running to? It's so much more powerful if you have something to run to. Right. And maybe you need to stay put for a little bit until you understand what that is. Yeah. And so that took a little bit of time. Let's say that, that was percolating in the brain for a couple of years. I had lunch with you up in Amelia Island. And this was probably now going on 6 months ago, something like that. And, I was talking to you, and Lisa had made mention that, she'd really love to travel. And you said something to the effect of, hey, Mark, it's your time, man. It's y'all's time. That's your partner in life. Honor that. It's your time. And when you said that, I really took that to heart. I really did. I really took it to heart. And that was kind of one of the things that tipped the iceberg, if you will, to say, hey, I knew Lisa had wanted to travel. You guys know that I've got a passion. I really want to help young men, okay, that might not have won the father lottery, let's just say, that face certain challenges in this day and age. So I have written a coaching program for that type of individual, and I've got a passion for that. But Lisa had started a bookkeeping business that's doing pretty well about 2 years ago. And we had talked about it. And so her and I are going to work together and grow this bookkeeping business. And then earlier this week when we were down in Orlando, I had a meeting with somebody about teaching in certain Keller Williams market centers. So a lot of it's going to involve building and teaching is what it's going to be. And 2 of those 3 things we can do from anywhere we want.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So it all tied in. Our health is good. The kids are at an age where financially they still need us, but sometimes advice-wise they don't. But it's a good time. I don't see grandkids anytime soon. And, we met with the CPA, met with our financial planner, met with the attorney, changed some things on the will, all of that type of stuff. So, I mean, it's been a planned out thing that we're going to do. And when I was fortunate enough to get offered this job, as I said, and when we took it, I was like, yeah, we got this. We got this. I feel the same way now. It's like, I don't have all the answers just this sec, but we got this. This is going to work.
And I think the opportunity to touch some of those kids is going to be maybe your next legacy.
That would be wonderful.
That would be awesome.
I'd love that. I do. That's an easy one to think about it that way because I truly do have a passion, about it. If I could just pass this advanced train the trainer course that Amanda passed, if I could just pass that.
We're going to get you there, Mark. Don't you worry.
She's going to offer some private.
Yes, I'll do some private coaching.
Well, I guess the thing to say is thank you. Yeah. I think on behalf of all of Keller Williams Atlantic Partners and Keller Williams in general, if I may be so bold to speak for Gary and others, we appreciate the time and energy you put into this. And it's touched a lot of lives.
Well, thank you.
Touched a lot of lives.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it very much.
The love doesn't go unnoticed, and I thank you for just that time that you walked over to me at family reunion, and I was a brand new PC, and everyone else on their phone, I was scribbling notes like crazy. And you walked over to me and you said, what you're doing right now is why you're going to go so far in this organization. And having a positive, when you didn't even recognize me really at that point, you paid me no mind, which is fine. But during, you were too important, it's fine. But having you step aside and pull me aside to say that was one of the things that helped me realize that I was a leader. And so I don't even think you realized how impactful the little encouragements and notes and things that you've done along the way have changed. I'd go to say thousands of lives, quite honestly. It's not just Keller Williams, it's the real estate industry.
Yeah. Say nothing but thank you. Thank you so much. And again, thank you to all the people that helped me get here, that were part of it, from Steve to Margaret to Nancy to Wilma to you guys to Patrick to Connie to Marianne to all of them. Yeah. I mean, all of them. Wilma. Yeah, it's just been a joy. Tyler, Beth. Yeah. See, I shouldn't have done that.
You're like, wait a second. Well, before we close out, one final thought from Mark Dilworth. Give us some advice. Whichever direction you want to take it.
Okay, here's what I'll say. Total honesty. If you're at a point in your career where the winds don't feel as high as the winds used to feel, and the lows or the losses don't feel as low as they used to feel, you probably need to look in the mirror and say, hey, it may be time for something else. And that's about as transparent as I can get.
That gave me goosebumps.
Like that.
Yeah, I like that.
That's good.
That was great.
All right, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Been great.
Ooh,
Thank you,
one of
girl.
those. Thank you so much, Mark.
All
It's
right.
been appreciated.
All right.
Charlie, thank you, buddy.
There we go. That is the conclusion of our episode for the Real Estate Vault.
I like
You got
it.
me while I was.